Welcome back to another episode of Solo Scaled. And today I have a great friend, Justin Janowski here. He's the founder of Faith to Influence, a sales coaching company helping Christian coaches and consultants grow their business through high integrity sales strategies. And the crazy part about it is that in his first year after leaving his job, Justin earned over 250K in revenue, all without paid ads or a large list, just proving that relational selling can outperform pressure based tactics. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. So, Justin, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And as we've been having conversations now for months, and we both have been in sales for a long time. And one thing you and I both know is that most coaches and consultants dread sales calls. They want to serve, but they don't want to sell. And we've seen this time and time again. They hate the high pressured sales tactics. They hate all the awkward closing and how to close and all that stuff. And I'm just curious from you, man. One, am I correct in that assessment? And two, how do you start helping people build their high ticket sales offers without that pressure?
Yeah, good question, Ken. Thanks for asking. I will say you're absolutely right. The studies would suggest that something like 82% of coaches are failing due to a lack of client acquisition and marketing ability. And so they don't know how to get, if we had 100 people, for every 100 people listening to this podcast episode, only 18 of them, if they're solopreneurs in the coaching space, are making it. The other 82 are failing. But the biggest reason why they're failing is because 90% of people, they fear sales. They've got an anxiety around sales. They think it's going to be a really bad experience. And so if we're avoiding sales, of course, we're not going to have any success. And people trick themselves in one of a number of different ways. Sometimes they trick themselves into believing that there's another way. And they start thinking, I'm going to find another way to make sales without doing sales, which when you say it out loud sounds really funny, but they do. They start just posting on social media and recording podcasts and YouTube videos and things that I think are great, writing another blog post or writing an email newsletter. There are 17 followers and revising their website with a new font the next time. All things that make them feel busy and have the illusion of progress while just keeping them safe and avoiding sales. That's the biggest thing that people are doing, is because they think it's going to be this bad thing. And it's because they've got this old story that sales is going to be painful. It's going to feel like rejection or judgment. It's going to hurt the other person. It's going to be greedy or pushy or sleazy. And they're not that kind of person. So they think, well, I just can't do this. That's the big problem. And the truth is, they just need the right process. They need to learn how to do sales in a high integrity, loving way that honors their values. And once they do that, the resistance can go away.
Yeah. And Justin, this is why you and I have a lot of fun together, because you're 100% right. All those things are great. And we both teach a lot of those things. You need to do marketing. All those are in the marketing side of things, but they confuse marketing with actual sales.
Yes.
And even their marketing content, they don't have a way to push people for the ask, the sale of hey, get on a phone call with me. Let's talk. It's always this. This is what I remember hearing a client one mine hope. They're like, I hope my content is so great that people just want to. They're falling over for me to work with them. And I'm like, that may be 1 in 1,000, but it's not going to be the norm.
Yeah.
Right. Unless you're become this massive megastar, you become a Jocko Willink or Gary Vaynerchuk or Alex Hormozy, right? But
right.
Even then, they're always closing on their DMs or blog posts. They're doing something. They're giving a lot of high value and also closing. But so for you, as you're working with these people, man, because they have these mindsets, how do you start to help them overcome those initial mindsets where they feel like it is sleazy, it is high pressured, it is just icky for them when it comes to sales?
Okay, that's a good question. And before answering that, Ken, I just want to speak to the marketing piece as people
For
confusing
sure.
it with sales for a moment. What you were saying there is important, because I think what people do is they feel comfortable speaking to an anonymous audience. But the anonymous audience rarely clicks and buys. Like you said, they need to be invited from that marketing into being a known audience, right? Where we can either be a small group setting together because we're delivering a speech or we're doing a webinar or training, or they need to be one-on-one. That's when we turn it into a sales call. But speaking to the anonymous audience feels really safe. And people in the anonymous audience love to remain anonymous. They don't want to click like on your stuff or click heart. You've got a ton of people liking and loving your stuff who, if you just reached out to them and had a real conversation with them, they'd be like, heck yeah, I've been loving your stuff. I'd love to do your thing. But they're not bold enough to become known on their own without us reaching out to them in some cases. Okay, so let's say somebody has this, to answer your real question. They've got this old story. I remember one of my clients, Laura Nizer, came to me and she said, Justin, sales is just really pushy. And, we had to rewrite and rewire the story. And I'm going to tell Laura's story, and then hopefully people can pause and do this for themselves, because I started having a conversation with her. I said, well, Laura, are you pushy? And she said, no, I'm not. I said, if I put you on a sales call, would you then be pushy? And she said, no, I just can't do it. I'm not a pushy person. That's why I'm not good at sales. And I said, okay, well, if you weren't going to be pushy on the sales call, Laura, how would you show up? And she said, I just show up to serve the other person. And I said, that sounds really nice. So is sales with you pushy? And she said, no, I guess not. I said, what is sales with you, Laura? And she said, sales with me, service. And she had this, it might sound like a simple conversation, but she had a real breakthrough that day. And she gave herself permission to just show up and serve and coach and lead on that call and then invite them to the next step. And the next week, she closed two $7,500 deals. That $15,000 was more than she sold the entire previous year in her business, because she had been avoiding sales at all costs and on sales calls, just like building friendships. And like, if you just like act like you're trying to make friends the whole time and then you squeeze an offer in at the end because you've been avoiding sales, that's when it feels awkward and strange. But she gave herself permission to be transparent and to lead throughout the call and to serve and to invite. And all of a sudden, it became easy. And so listeners who are bringing this in and it's resonating with might just do the same thing. You might consider, what are the stories you have about sales? Or maybe it's about you. Like, I'm not good enough. Or maybe it's about money. Like, people with money are rude or mean or bad. I don't want to be that person. Whatever it is, some of us have stories about sales. Some of us, it's about money. Some it's about ourselves. Take that story that's been really big in your mind and just write it small on a piece of paper. And then you might draw a line straight through it, just cross it out and say, not true. Write a true, new, empowering story underneath. And then begin to tell yourself that new story, that new soundtrack, as John Acuff would call it, again and again until it becomes the predominant story. And then a final thing on this is sometimes we just have to do it scared. And so the story's not going to take completely without some evidence for most people. Like, Laura still had to get on that next sales call, and I'm sure she felt nervous. I'm sure some of those old feelings came back, and she just pushed through the fear. She had boldness and courage, and she made her offer, and she provided great service, and somebody bought. And then the next time it probably didn't feel so hard. And the next time it probably didn't feel so hard. And it just gets easier. So there's this element of deciding to choose a different story intentionally. And then the other side of it is being willing to do it scared.
Yeah. What's interesting is one of the talk tracks, right, that I would tell myself, I remember years ago, was I had to close this deal on this first phone call. Because in that time, I don't know, 5-8 years ago, especially in that high ticket coaching space, they were like, one call closes, everything's got to be one call closes or else. And I remember that intense pressure. I'm like, well, if I got to close it in one sale, all of a sudden, I feel like I have to do these high pressure sales tactics. And I remember kind of doing something very similar. I'm like, well, what if I don't have to do that? What if I just serve them? And interestingly enough, I was still closing one call closes. I just took the pressure off of myself and just said, hey, I'm just going to serve them as best as possible. Justin, have you noticed any other type of language that people have used, or even when it comes to like the industry, right? Like the sales industry, there's a lot of types of talk tracks that we use that is a detriment to coaches today.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many things that people are doing that they think that they have to do. And the one that you just spoke about, Ken, the people who trained me in high ticket coaching sales, they were trying to teach me the same thing. Never let them get off the call. Don't let them talk to their spouse. And I remember for them, I was making a $20,000 offer, and I thought I'd talk to my wife about that. And it didn't feel so good. It didn't feel like it had the most integrity to try to bypass that conversation they wanted to have with their spouse, or I'm a Christian, so that maybe that conversation they want to have with God about a big decision. One of the things I want to give a quick strategy to that is to end every call with yes, no, or the next call booked. What I found is I can close a ton of deals on the second call. In fact, right before we got in this call, I closed one of our private coaching deals. This is a 5-figure deal where somebody comes out to my house and they spend a day and we work on their business, and it's a really cool experience. Then we've got some support on the back end of it. But it was a second call. I talked to him on Monday. He wanted to talk to his spouse. He wanted to pray about it. And we booked the second call for Thursday morning this week. And so it was a couple days later. He jumped on this next call and he said yes. But what I found is that people get off the call and they say, I want to think about it. And they're like, okay, cool. Well, I'll follow up with you. Or why don't you follow up with me? And that doesn't work very well because follow up is messy. And if we text them and say, hey, have you made your decision yet? And they say, oh, not yet. Then when do we text again? And what's the next step? What if they don't respond to the first text or email after we hold the call with them? Do we send another one? How long do we wait before sending another one? It's like the dating game in today's world. It's like exhausting to even think about the strategy. And all of a sudden you're chasing, you're too desperate, which is like the person who's pushing too hard on that first call. And that's not compelling either. We want our clients to be coming to us, not us like desperately chasing them. And so I'm fine with yes on the call. I love that. I want to take payment. I'm fine with no on the call. I'm okay with that if we can find the honest truth that this isn't for them. But if it's not yes or no, I want the next call booked. I want to say, great, why don't you take the time to pray about it, think about it, talk to your spouse, and we talk either tomorrow or Thursday. Quick 15-minute call. I can answer any final questions you have. We can make a decision together. And that strategy, if people just implement that next call booked and remove the follow-up, will change the game and be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, to most of the successful entrepreneurs who are listening to this. It's a game changer and it saves you a ton of time. But the other things that people are doing in the marketplace are like they're pricing their services in a weird way. So instead of the program being $20,000, they're saying it's $19,997. And they're doing that because they've seen everybody else do it. And it seems like this thing that we have to do, and it's a marketing ploy. But to me, it feels so sleazy. I don't like that price. Now, no judgment on anybody who has that price. I get why you have it, why your $10,000 program is $99,900. That's fine because it's a marketing idea. But for me, it doesn't feel honest to take $3 off a $20,000 program or $3 off a $10,000 program. It's fine if you're under $100, $3 actually means something. But at that point, it doesn't feel right to me. That doesn't mean it's wrong for everybody. But for me, if my client would say yes to $9,997, but they'd say no to $10,000, I don't want them to buy. I don't want that headache. I want them to know what the price is. I want transparency in my pricing and my marketing and my sales. I want to make it as easy as possible for the right people to say yes, but doing that in a way that has integrity and feels good and feels easy to me. And so that's just another example, like the one call only close is considering your pricing. And so I just invite anybody who's listening to this, consider all the different things you're doing in sales, marketing, and with your offers and say, whatever you were told or whatever you saw other people do, you don't have to do it. We want to learn from great mentors and great models, but we can evaluate every piece of how we're running our business and say, what does God want for me? Or what's right for my value system? Or how am I being called to show up in the marketplace? And I think when we show up that way, we'll have authenticity and integrity, and people will feel it, and it will feel better for them to say yes and take the next step with us.
Justin, I'm holding it right there. Don't forget that thought. I have a really important phone call coming in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just take it real quick.
Go ahead.
All right, I'm back.
All right.
They were supposed to call. I have a fridge coming in, and they were supposed to call me, and they didn't. So they're like, we're here. I'm like,
do you need to go let them in?
No, it's for one of my rentals in Minnesota. So they're
okay.
So I'm like working it. And the people who live there were gone. Like they're on vacation. I'm like trying to manage all of it while they're not there. All right. I took notes. Why? Because I knew I was like, oh, I got to make this call, but let me jump into this. Let me just make a pause here. Justin, I think everybody just heard that, and I hope you may need to rewind back to, because there was a bunch of little master classes in there, even just like on the follow-up piece, right? Like I remember you doing that when I was first a rookie, like just messing it up and like, okay, well, hey, I'll just text you. And then it would fall apart. But like you booking the next thing. And the other thing that I would add to that is like, I would actually say, hey, on this next phone call, this is the stuff we're going to talk about. Are you cool with that? Or is there anything else that you want to talk? Like, again, just having a clear agenda for people to feel like, okay, we're not going to hide anything and we're not going to use these sleazy tactics. It's just like we're coming in being fully transparent. Justin, as you were talking about transparency and all these different things, walk us through a little bit of like your sales process, right? Like how do you help people not feel like they have to be the high pressure person, but actually can come in and be themselves? Because it seems like you have new principles that you use. Again, for example, like the pricing model, right? Like it used to work for good marketing psychology for like low ticket stuff, but when you get to a higher ticket item, those $3 does not matter. You just
Mhm.
feel like that's where like subtly those sleazy sales things come in play. So just kind of walk us through what you do.
Yeah, for me, when I'm getting on a sales call with someone, the first step, and we've got a 10-step sales process, and we're going to share this with everybody for free. We'll give you a PDF of this. So if you're listening, you're like scribbling notes furiously as I'm talking, don't feel like you have to get every word. We'll share a gift with you here in the podcast. But my first step of the process happens before I'm on the call with somebody, which is to get myself in a peak emotional state. Because sometimes I am battling anxiety or fear or like who am I as a salesperson or whatever, like and it certainly was when I was a new coach. And so I remember like having to overcome some of those initial emotions and those feelings. And so what was important for me was to get myself in a peak emotional state before I began the call. So I have a waiting room in my Zoom, and so people can wait in there. I'll be there, a minute or two early, and I'm doing a pre-call ritual. And so I'm just like doing some deep breathing. I'm praying, like I'm getting myself feeling good. I'm standing, when we were going to begin this interview, I went from sitting to standing up because I needed a little bit more energy. And I'm very thoughtful about how I want to feel when I'm in the call. For me, my best emotions are confidence, love, and peace. That peace, like you talked about not having commission breath. I use different language around it, but like not wanting or needing the sale too badly, which isn't very effective. Like when you found like more abundance and you recognize you don't need any one sale, you don't need anything from the other person. They actually wanted to buy more. And so I want that peace. I want to love the other person, just care about them and be there for them and make the call about them, not about me. And then I want the confidence and certainty to know that I can be the authority, that I can be the leader, that I can do this. And so if we just do that, if we get ourselves feeling good before the call begins, everything else becomes easier. But then when I'm going to move into the actual process, I'm getting a rapport briefly on a call. I'm spending 30, 60, 90 seconds. Hey, how are you? How's your day been? I'm not lingering there. I'm not like building a friendship. I'm going to build a relationship throughout the course of the call, but I want to get into the heart of the call sooner rather than later because I'm a professional and my time's valuable and so is the other person's. And so I'm going to interject with a pre-frame. And so when I'm like, hey, how are you? How's your day been? They're, oh, it's good. I've been doing this. They're like, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. My day's been great. I'm really excited to be talking to you. And then I'm going to pre-frame the conversation. And this is where I'm transparent and upfront. I'm like, hey, John, I'm so glad that we decided to connect today. I want to set a simple structure for our call so we can use our time well. Would that be all right? Yes? Cool. The reason we're talking is Ken tells me you're a great coach and a great person. And I actually work with Christian coaches to help them optimize their business models, their pricing, and their sales strategies so they can scale their income and scale their impact. My outcome on a call like this is to get to know you better and discover whether or not it's a fit for us to work together. And the way I'd like to get to that outcome is by asking some questions about where you're at in your business right now, what your vision is for the future, and what some of the challenges are that you're facing. From there, I'll give you some perspective and coaching based on what I hear. And if it seems like a good fit, I'll explain really specifically how I work with my clients. And then you and I can decide either to work together or not work together. And either way is fine. Does that sound good? Yes, I'm getting transparent. They know what the process is. I'm getting their consent to sell. And now we can just execute the process, which is I'm going to do discovery. I'm going to ask questions about where they're at. I'm going to be really curious. Then I'm going to do vision. I'm going to ask questions about where they're going and what do they really want in their business or their life or their health and fitness or their marriage or whatever it is that you work people on. And I'm going to get clear on point A and point B. So then the question naturally becomes, well, what's the biggest thing holding you back? Why haven't you accomplished that yet? Or what's the biggest challenge standing in your way? And what's going to happen if you don't solve that problem? And what could happen if you did solve that problem? Life or business be like if you could solve that one problem, become great at that one thing that's been in the way. And how committed are you to solving the problem? And if they're committed to solving it, if I've helped them at this point identify where they're at, get clear on what they want, get clear on the biggest problem standing in the way, and commit to solving the problem, I'm giving them a gift, whether we work together or not. Now they've got the leverage they need to go take a different kind of action. And of course, if they say they're committed, oftentimes I'm going to say, great. If you're committed, I'm really confident I can help. Are you ready to hear how I work with my clients? And at that point, at the end of the call, I'm going to make it about my offer. But it's not features and benefits throughout, it's coaching. It's questions, it's conversation, it's clarity. And then I'm going to share the details of my offer. I'm going to tell them why from my heart, like I feel like it's a fit for them and why I can help them solve the problem. I'm going to tell them the price. I'm going to say, is this something that you want to do? And if they have objections or concerns, I'm going to make it okay that they have an objection and concern, make that normal. And I'm going to be curious there. I'm going to ask more questions. If they're like, it's a lot of money, it feels like too much, I'm going to say, I totally get it. It is a big investment. Tell me more about what that means for you. Or if they're like, I need to talk to my spouse, I'm like, I totally get it. I'd talk to my spouse about a big decision like this too. Let me ask you a question though. Have you made your decision for you yet? If she says, whatever you think, babe, I trust you. Do you know what you want to do? I want to find out if there's another objection. Or is it really, they're like, no, I'm in. I just need to talk to, okay, great. Can we line up a call for tomorrow or the next day so I can answer any final questions you or her have and we can make a decision together? And, so I'm going to end with that yes, no, or next call book. So that's what the process looks like for me on a very transparent sales call. I do want to just give the caveat for anyone listening that sometimes I know you get on like a networking call and maybe it doesn't make sense to like lead with this like sales forward pre-frame.
Yeah.
And that's what I call a coffee chat. In that case, it's a similar process, but the pre-frame is really light. It's like, hey, thanks so much for connecting. I'm really excited to learn more about you and your business, share what I'm doing, and see how we can support each other. Are you open to that? Yes, cool. Tell me about you. And then they're going to tell me all their stuff. I'm going to ask curious questions, still do discovery and vision. Then I'm going to share about me. I'm going to say, hey, how can I help you? Is there anyone you want to meet? Any problems you want to solve? Any prayer requests you have? I see a couple of ways we might be able to collaborate or work together. What do you see? And we're just going to find something. And like I did that the other day and it led to a $10,000 sale. You never know when that's going to happen. If we just show up with integrity and authority and we still pre-frame the call and we still ask curious questions and make it about them, but we're ready for opportunity and ready to be assertive when the opportunity presents.
Yeah. Justin, a couple of things that I caught that I don't want people to miss, in the pre-frame. And here's what I love is that you're talking about a lot of stuff that other people would do, but other people put a lot of high pressure, different things in there. For example, like in the pre-frame, you said, hey, at the end, we could decide if we want to work together or not. Like you didn't make it about you can buy or you can invest. You talked about a decision. But a lot of people are like, hey, if after the call you're ready, we'll talk about you joining and investing in the program. You're like, oh gosh, that I don't even know if I'm ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Or even in the objection handling, when you were like, yeah, I totally get that. I would want to talk to my spouse too. Like, how many times have you found, and maybe there's some sales bros out there, like the alpha sales bro, they're like, hey, are you not the man? I seriously have heard people talk about it like this, like, wait, are you not the man of the house? Are you not the one leading this thing? And you're just like, don't pin your spouse against each other. Like that's not going to work well. You may get the sale, but you're not going to win that relationship long term. And
That's
they're
right.
probably going to actually have a clawback because then a week later, their spouse is like, "What the heck did you do?" and get the money back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
So
I've seen
many of
that
these
time and time again.
companies. Yeah. Yeah. So many of those companies run into that. They've got a lot of, and we've worked with a lot of these companies are super high pressure. And I've seen what's happening on the back end for them, which is they're having cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. They're getting negative reviews. They're like battling people for payments and contract details and stuff like that. And it's exhausting. And I just think, maybe that's the way. Maybe that's the way if you want to build a 10 million business and have tremendous stress and complication. I don't know. I do know that you can run multiple six-figure business and a seven-figure business with total integrity and making it a lot lighter and a lot easier. And your client relations can be so strong and your referrals can be stronger. And your clients will stay with you longer when their spouse supports the decision that they're making. And so I just want to treat people with respect at all times. I want to love them at all times. I want to take the pressure off. And I think that people, the other side of the conversation is nervous about sales also.
Yeah.
So if you're the salesperson, you're like, I'm nervous, feeling some anxiety. I want you to recognize the other side's nervous about this too, because they've had bad sales experiences. And so when you start to display that this is not that, and that with you, they're safe, I think that they're feeling more comfortable to make big decisions in that environment because they feel safe enough to make a big decision with you and they trust you. And those things are more important to me. And if I lose a few sales because I'm not doing the things that feel absolutely wrong to me, I'll lose the sales. But the
Yeah.
truth is, try it on for size. I believe that you can actually make more sales doing this the right way. Now, the caveat to this is we still have to be assertive. We have to lead. We have to ask people to buy. We have to handle objections. We can't just be like, okay, cool, no worries. Like, I'll follow up with you in 6 months and just be willy-nilly about it. Like, we don't want to go the other side of trying not to make a sale.
Yeah.
We want to be assertive. We want to be great at influence and leadership. And I think when you do that with a high integrity, safe environment, It makes it easy for the right people to say yes. I don't want the wrong people to say yes anyways. I want the right people.
Yeah. Just as we talk about integrity, there's two things that I've always done to feel integritous in my conversations and to actually close that sale. Because kind of what you're talking about, a lot of coaches, they get nervous and they're not assertive about it. Right.
That's right.
So here's what I do at the beginning in my pre-frame. And because people know that they're like, oh, he's been doing sales for 15 years. Whenever you hear that they've been in sales for X amount of years, you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to pitch me hard. Right. So I typically say, hey, this is not going to be a high pressure sales call. So whatever you think this is going to be, it's not it. Like literally, I'm just going to try to coach you, see if I can help you. If I can't help you, I'll be the first one to tell you that. But if I can, I'll let you know how I can. So then when we get through the process, we start talking. And then when I start casting vision, I'm showing all my passion, my excitement. Like I actually believe in my product. I think so many coaches are afraid to share what they truly believe can work because they feel that their passion is going to be perceived as like they're trying to manipulate the person into making the sale. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, man, just show your passion. And if they want that, great, cool. Let's keep talking about it. But let's not try to hide or minimize what you're actually able to bring to the table for your future client.
That's right.
What
Yeah,
do you
that's
think about
right.
that?
We can't play small. We
Yeah.
that doesn't help anybody. And so, yeah, I think a lot of the high integrity, like loving coaches and solopreneurs that I know, they go so far to the other side that they actually hurt themselves and the other person by not assertively making their offers and assertively inviting people to buy. They get too passive. And so, yes, we don't want to be aggressive, but
Yeah.
let's not overcorrect and be passive because that's not serving the mission that God's called you to. That's not serving the client's needs and goals and outcomes and the things that you could help them. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're a coach or a service-based entrepreneur and you provide a service that can change people's lives or businesses or marriages or health and fitness, there's a lot on the line. There's a lot at stake here. The work you do is important. It's far too important for you to be passive about it. It's not respectful and appropriate to the other person or to your mission probably for you to be aggressive about it either. And so we want to find that assertive middle that serves both sides of the equation in a win-win or no deal relational energetic with you and the prospect.
Yeah. And that's where, if you're listening to this and you're wondering, okay, how do I become more assertive? It really just takes practice.
That's right.
you know, Getting on. I would joke with my sales reps, when I used to lead a bunch of sales teams, be like, hey, sometimes we have to do mock calls. We have to do some trials. Like, let me hear you. Let me see what's going on. Right. Like, it's okay to do that. Ask your spouse, ask a friend to do that with you. Or you just got to get more at bats. It really does take that. And ask your friends or whoever is doing it with you to truly give you feedback. Like, was I too assertive? Was I too aggressive? Like, how did I sound? They'll know you, right? They'll know if like you're trying to manipulate the situation. And it's like, okay, cool. I Most often coaches that Justin and I are talking about, and you're listening to this, you are that individual that you've just swung the pendulum too far in passivity. And what you think is aggressiveness is actually not. You just need to get a little bit more assertive. And we want to give you permission to do that too. Be permission to be transparent, and also give yourself permission to be assertive. That's what I'm hearing from you, Justin. For those, I'm giving my insights on this, but for those who are hearing this and they're like, I know this, right? They're like, I know I need to do these things, but I don't know how. As we wrap up this conversation, Justin, what's like maybe one or two things you could start helping people kind of get there?
Hmm. It's a lot of what we talked about. It's a lot about what we talked about today. So willing yourself before the engagement to feel good, right? Prayer, movement, standing up, music, whatever it is, like just get yourself feeling good because when you feel good, you're going to do well. And so that would be like a first step. And then you mentioned it before. We just need the repetitions. And so
Yeah.
you can get the repetitions with a great mentor. We've got some programs where we actually like coach people and we put them in practice pods and they get to practice in the presence of mentors and peers, or find a buddy, find somebody else who's in the same industry as you and practice with them, or even better, just get on real calls with real people and invite them to buy. And the 10th time you do that, it's going to be so much easier than the first. And the 100th time, it's going to be so much easier than the 10th. And by this 200th time, you're going to be a master. You're going to be great. Like, it doesn't even take that long. And 200 sales calls is like 4 a week. This is your business. This is your livelihood. This is your job. That's 4 hours a week for the next year, and you could be almost a master at this, like at least be at the first level of mastery. And so we just need to get started. If people want help, we want to offer you our 10-step sales process for free. So this is a PDF. It's going to be the process I laid out before, but in greater detail, so you can read it, you can print it out, you can have it on your desk, you can use it on your sales calls, and you can find that at goodsalespdf.com.
That's goodsalespdf.com. I'll also make sure to put that in the show notes for those of you. And I want to encourage all of you, as you're listening to this, I have been in this sales coaching space for a really long time, and I've talked to a lot of them, and there's not a lot of people that I trust to do coaching. Justin and I have gotten to know each other for a while. And if you're like listening to this and we're just kind of going back and forth and you're like, wow, Justin's got some great insights, man, I would encourage you, just reach out to him. I love his style. Him and I have very similar styles. And I'm like, man, you should go to him. There's other people that I'll be having on the podcast too, that we're in the same line of thinking. Because I think many of you who are listening to this are tired of the sales bro tactics and like the high pressure things. So please, 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 I encourage you guys, go reach out to Justin, see what he can do for you. I love watching what you've been doing. I love seeing how God has actually been growing your stuff, Justin, and your influence. It's been fantastic. Justin, for those who are listening to this and I do want to learn more about you, what's the best place they can reach out to you?
You can find me on any social, just about any social, certainly Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Justin Janowski. Easy to find me there. You could also email me. If somebody's really resonating, I got a question, I got to ask it straight to the source. Just email me, justin@faith2influence.com.
All right. All that's going to be in the show notes. Justin, man, thank you so much. And I hope this encourages all of you. You don't have to do the high pressure sales. There is a better way to do sales, and Justin is living proof of it. He started his business making $250K. He's showing other people how to make money. He's given examples throughout this podcast. And man, he's the real deal, genuinely authentic. He's always been transparent. And I love how you were talking about the pre-frame even earlier of like when you were networking, because that's exactly what you and I did, right? We were just like, hey, let's see how we can support each other. We just started talking. And we've built a relationship, and it's been like, hey, how can we support one another? And if anything, that's what I want you guys to know, that what you hear from Justin here right now is also his private life. He's just integritous in numerous places. And that's what you want from someone who's teaching you about sales. Justin, any final words for the community?
Be bold, trust yourself, and just take the next step. Keep taking the next step. You're probably closer than you think to the results that you want.
Awesome. Justin, thank you for being on the podcast. And again, go reach out to him. It's going to be in the show notes. Hope you guys have a great day.